Okay, for those of you who've just joined us after closed session, welcome to this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'm Laura Simon, Board President, and I would like to introduce my fellow trustees, Lisa Pelosi, Sean Mora, Jeannie Kerr, and Jean Marie Wolf. I would also like to introduce our district staff, Superintendent Dr. Jody McClay, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Business Official Dr. Kay Vang, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board, Ms. Erica Madrigal, and Director of Technology, Mr. Derek Machado. Additional staff members are joining us in the audience: Director of Educational Services, Mrs. Araceli Romo Flores, Director of Facilities and Maintenance, Mr. Mike Flores, St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Benjamin Cinto, RLS Middle School Principal, Mr. Andrew Ryan, St. Helena Elementary School Principal, Dr. Carmen Emery, and St. Helena Primary School Principal, Mrs. Rebecca Rocha. We are delighted that you are viewing in person on television channel 27, on our YouTube channel, and a copy of this board meeting video will be available on our website at sthelenaunified.org. In connection with items 4A and 4B, the board received information and provided staff with direction. In connection with item 4C, the board conducted the superintendent's evaluation. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, 6A, public comment on open session items. One moment. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on items not on the meeting agenda? Okay. Please come to the podium. And we give 3 minutes for comments. Thank you.
Hola, mi nombre es Tania Cano. Soy representante de ILAC de primaria y elementaria y también soy presidenta de DLAC.
Hi, my name is Tanya, and I am the parent representative for ELAC at the primary school and also the DLAC as president.
Quiero solamente mencionar algunos acontecimientos muy emocionantes este año escolar.
I would just like to share some praises about this school year.
Este año tuvimos un éxito con la presencia de muchos padres en las juntas de ILAC y DLAC.
This year we had greater participation at our ELAC and DLAC meetings.
Y también tuvimos muchos padres colaboradores en recaudar fondos para Give Big. Y en este año recaudamos $1,556 para Give Big de la escuela primaria.
And we also had several parents participate in fundraising for Give Big, and they raised $1,500.56.
Y también algún dinero que colectamos en Sunshine.
And we also collected money in Sunshine.
También otro momento impresionante fue la celebración ceremonial de los estudiantes reclasificados.
Another impressive event was the reclassification ceremony.
Fue algo muy bonito, algo que no se vio en los años anteriores.
Something very nice that hadn't happened in the past.
También este año tuvimos algunos talleres tutoriales que nos ayudaron a la comunidad para informarnos con temas que desconocemos, como los problemas de sustancias ilícitas. También plataformas sociales que están acabando con nuestros jóvenes hoy en día. Esto se debe al atributo de Selene Robledo, que nos ha traído estos programas.
We also had a lot of parent workshops that helped us to learn about substance abuse and different social platforms that our students, our children are struggling with. And we'd also like to thank Selene Robledo for organizing those events.
También este año tuvimos las conferencias ACABE, que tuvimos la oportunidad de ir, director y padres, gracias a nuestra directora de educación.
We also were able to participate in the GABE conference.
Esta vez que yo fui, yo aprendí algo muy importante que quiero implementar este año con la ayuda de Araceli y de las directoras.
This year I learned something very important that I'd like to implement next year with the support of Araceli, myself, and other principals.
Lo que aprendí que es la importancia de ser un padre involucrado y un padre participante, y qué es lo importante de cada una y qué función tiene. Esto me quiero que ayude a los padres para que vengan cada día más a las juntas, que estén involucrados con sus hijos y que sepan lo importante es en qué estar en cada momento con ellos.
I learned the difference between being an involved parent and a participating parent, and I'd like to get more parents involved.
También quiero agradecer a nuestra directora Carmen de la Elementaria por el apoyo incondicional que me dio en lo personal. Me inspiró confianza, seguridad, y también lo mismo le inspira a sus alumnos, y que espero que le vaya muy bien.
I'd also like to publicly thank Carmen, the principal of SHUSD, for the confidence and security she provided me as a parent personally, and also to her students, and we hope her retirement is enjoyable.
Por último, tengo dos padres que quieren compartir con ustedes una experiencia por su primer año en este distrito escolar. Creo que es muy importante que ustedes sepan eso, la importancia de los maestros y los directores que dan a los padres que están por primera vez en nuestro distrito.
I'd also like you to hear from two parents that would like to share their experience as new parents to our school community.
Pero en sí quiero terminar con esto. Deseo de todo corazón que nuestra nación siga siendo una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
I'd like to leave you with this, that I hope that our country continues to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
El primer padre que tengo es la señora Noemí.
The first parent to speak is Noemi.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Noemí Ruiz Osorio.
Good evening, my name is Noemi Ruiz Osorio.
Es mi primer año estando involucrada en las juntas de ELAC.
This is my first year participating in ELAC.
Tengo dos niños.
I have two children.
La experiencia ha sido muy bonita porque los he visto muy despiertos y siento que han estado aprendiendo bastante.
The experience has been really positive. They've been very alert and excited, and she enjoys seeing them excited to go to school.
Pues me gusta que mis hijos vean que estamos al pendiente con las pocas reuniones que he estado asistiendo y estar viendo constantemente a la escuela para ver cómo va su crecimiento educativo.
It's been great for them to see me involved and coming to meetings and being in touch with what's going on at their school site.
Pues de mi parte solamente es agradecer tanto como a las escuelas, a los directores que han estado muy al pendiente y que han tenido mucha paciencia con mis hijos.
She'd just like to thank all of the administrators and the school staff for being so patient and welcoming to her and her children.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
El siguiente padre se llama Elena Valencia.
Second parent is Elena Valencia.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Elena y soy la mamá de Carol.
Good evening. My name is ¿cómo te llamas? Elena, and I am the mother of Carol.
Pues estamos, Carol. Carol. Estamos muy contentos y muy felices y agradecidos. Ay, yo voy a llorar.
He's very
Estamos-
happy and grateful.
Estamos muy felices y agradecidos con todos y cada uno de ustedes por su buen desempeño, por la dedicación y el amor que le ponen a su trabajo.
I'm very grateful for the love and care that you put into your work.
Y en especial por el bien y lo feliz que hacen a Carol, ya que desde que acude a la escuela
And especially for how happy you've made Carol when he comes to school.
tiene un desarrollo mucho mejor y es mucho más feliz.
He's developed much better and is much happier.
Y estoy segura que es así con todos los niños.
And I'm sure this is the case for all of your students.
Y gracias por hacer realidad uno de mis tantos sueños, que principalmente cuando llegamos a este país, era que estábamos buscando una nueva vida y mejores oportunidades para Carol, ya que Carol es una persona con discapacidad.
We were looking for better opportunities, and when we came to this country to help my son who has disabilities.
Y no pudimos haber encontrado un mejor lugar que la escuela de Santa Elena.
And we couldn't have found a better place than St. Helena Schools.
Y al mejor equipo, y quiero darle las gracias a la directora Carmen, a Pablo, a mis bucanas, a mi Robert, a Melissa, Susana, a Aurelia, a Roberto, al señor otro Roberto, a Ana y a todos, en general a toda la escuela por hacer un buen trabajo con Carol.
She just thanked a lot of people that I can't repeat, but,
De
but
verdad
she's very grateful.
estoy muy agradecida y también quiero agregar,
And I'd also like to add,
gracias al equipo de la cafetería que lo alimenta bien, a sus compañeros de cuarto grado,
she'd like to thank the cafeteria staff who feeds him well, and also his companions in 4th grade.
y a los papás por hacer un gran trabajo con sus hijos y hacer que empaticen mucho con Carol.
And for the parents that do a great job with their own children that are welcoming to Carol.
A la escuela y a su gran educación que tienen. Muchas gracias.
And thank you to their school
Estamos-
and to the district for the great education he's getting.
Estamos muy contentos y muy felices de vivir esta nueva experiencia. Y perdón por las lágrimas, pero es mi primera vez.
And she's very grateful for this wonderful experience she's had, and forgive her for the tears, but she's very.
Muchas
it's the
gracias.
first time. Thank you.
Gracias.
Mrs. Roma Flores, please share that it takes a lot of courage to come to the podium. Thank you for sharing their personal stories.
Así que gracias por compartir sus historias, que toma mucha valentía para venir y hablar acerca de sus experiencias personales. Así que gracias.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to 7, consent agenda. Oh, that's right. Let me remind the board. There were 2 submitted public comments, so we'll take a look at those.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on now to the consent agenda, item 7. The consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, the item will be considered under discussion action items. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No.
No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Item 8A, Superintendent's Report. Dr. McClay.
All right, if it's okay, I'm going to go up to the podium tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
It'll become obvious why in just a moment. But all right, first of all, I just wanted to share, it has been such a positive and fun couple of weeks in St. Helena with graduations, promotions, end of the year activities. This is always one of my favorite times of the year, not because we are getting close to summer at all, but because it really is an opportunity for us to honor and recognize the amazing accomplishments of our students. And of course, all of the staff and the parents and the community members who've played a role in getting them really ultimately across that graduation stage that we all got to witness this last Friday night. We had 94 graduates at St. Helena High School. Huge credit to, again, all of the people that touched those students' lives in some way or another. It doesn't just happen at the high school. It really starts in the Preschool for All program when our little 3-year-olds come to us, and then they start TK and first and second, and they go all the way up. So many folks, from our cafeteria workers and our bus drivers to our teachers and our principals and everyone in between there, that really has an impact. So it was quite a treat to be out there and to see those 94 students get to walk across the stage and start the next chapter of their lives. In addition to all of that, though, we had 90 eighth graders walk across the promotion stage over at RLS. We had 87 fifth graders at the elementary school start their transition to become middle schoolers, and then 54 second graders ran through I call it the human arch, and I can't even say it without doing my hands, because to see so many adults out there that day on the primary playground was really incredible as the students all ran through high-fiving us to begin their time at the elementary school. Also this week, Friday school ended, and then on Monday we hit the ground running with summer school. So if you haven't had the opportunity, I would encourage you to stop by and see that in action. We have 82 students currently enrolled coming every day for kindergarten through 6th grade for the summer school program. Now, the reason that I'm actually at the podium tonight is I wanted to formally thank and recognize Dr. Carmen Emery. She's given me the look, going, no, you're not going to do this. Would you come up here, Dr. Emery? So as you know, Dr. Emery is going to be retiring. We have just some flowers for you. Okay, so just Wednesday is officially her last day, but I wanted to formally recognize and thank her for her years of service. We had hoped to keep her a little bit longer. We've had her for 3 years at the elementary site, but she has over 30 years in public education. She started as a bilingual classroom teacher, and then if I read your resume correctly, I had to go back and get it. She was a teacher on special assignment focused on data, which I see now because she really is a data queen over at the elementary school. She then became an associate principal. You've been a principal since 2009, if I did the math correctly. So I just wanted to publicly recognize her, thank her for her service. I learned recently she has 7 children and 11 grandchildren. So she will undoubtedly be very busy in retirement and traveling in between all of that. So you will be missed.
Thank you.
Okay? All right.
Thank you very much.
And a lot of questions have been coming in with Dr. Emery's retirement about the process of recruiting a new principal at the elementary school. So I thought I would speak to that for just a quick minute. These are big shoes to follow, as you know, from Dr. Emery. So we have gone through a process to get community input. We've gotten staff input through meetings and surveys. We recently closed the window. We had 38 applicants, if I got that number correct, Mr. Heller. 26 of those applicants met the criteria. Sometimes you have folks apply that don't quite meet the criteria. So 26 met the criteria. And then after a stringent screening process, 8 have been selected for what we would call a first round interview. The first round interview is actually comprised of 2 different panels. So the candidates go through 2 different interview sessions with parents, colleagues, administrators, community members, members of the staff at the school. And what those panels are really looking for is a good personality match. Who do those folks think have the people skills, the personality that would be a good fit at the campus? For candidates that are selected to go on to the next level, they would come and interview with cabinet, where we would really be kind of doing what we would call a deep dive into the technical skills. We want to be certain that they have the technical chops in addition to the people skills. Then oftentimes, and most likely in this case, there will be a 3rd round, if not even a 4th round, where we will dig extremely deep into what I would call their instructional leadership skills. So we want to know, really, do they have the skills to be what kind of a principal is, and that is the lead teacher on a campus. So can they really support our teachers collaboratively, instructionally, and with curriculum decisions. So it will be a rather robust process. And I just wanted to assure not only the board, but also the community at large and Dr. Emery, because she is leaving something that has been her heart and soul for the last 3 years, that we will attract and recruit a superstar. And if after that exhaustive process, we have not found someone that we believe is an absolute perfect fit for that campus and what they want and need, we will start over again. So we don't settle, we won't settle. And sometimes folks can get frustrated by that and say, what's taking so long? It's because we want to ensure that we get an absolute superstar. So just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of share publicly what that process looks like and how many folks are involved. And then just a few quick items, and you can be done hearing from me tonight. We are excited to be introducing the Kelvin survey, which will come to you in August. This is similar to the California Healthy Kids survey, but this particular survey that we would like to introduce to our students next year will survey them about their experiences in school and their lives and provide information and data directly from our learners. So that increases student voice, which is always a goal, and it gives us far more timely information than the CHUCs. We are required by the state, I understand, to continue with the CHUCs or the California Healthy Kids survey, but the Kelvin survey is one we are excited to be introducing to give us what we would call more timely data. You'll learn lots more about that next month, but we just wanted to mention it. We're also excited to be transitioning to the STAR assessment, or Renaissance, as some folks call it. These will replace our current MAP assessments, and those are really what we would call the local assessments in math and English language arts. MAP assessments have been criticized a bit for taking too much instructional time. The STAR assessments were approved unanimously by our assessment task force because they're easier and faster to administer, 30 to 40 minutes versus 2 hours on an assessment. They will provide instant results on student progress that our teachers and administrators and ultimately our board will see multiple times per year. So we're excited about that. And then finally, last comment, I promise, while most of our teachers are now officially on summer break, we do have some who are doing summer school. It's important to note that a great deal of work happens in a school district throughout the summer to prepare the school campuses for the start of the year. In fact, for many of our administrative staff, it's actually the busiest time of year. I see our facilities director out here, and I'm sure he would attest to that. The facilities team is going 24/7 right now on all of those projects. So that's a perfect example. I know that folks have mentioned, the primary school has a fence around it, what's happening, lots of not only routine maintenance, but even deep cleaning, carpet cleaning and paint touch-ups and lots of weeding and landscape things, in addition to the larger construction projects like HVAC systems and roofing projects that all occur over the summer with the intent of having those campuses beautiful come day one for our students and staff. So with that, I wish everyone a restful summer, and I thank you for letting me come to the podium tonight because I wanted to publicly thank Dr. Emery.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Emery, thank you for your years of service in St. Helena and before that. We wish you the best.
I'm supporting the green tonight, just so you know.
Woo! Okay, we're going to move on to 8B, Superintendent Subcommittee Reports. And since our last school board meeting, we had our board policy meeting on June 3rd. Vice President Pelosi and I were present for that meeting. Is there anything you'd like to share?
No, because we're going to cover policy later in the agenda, so I think that would be appropriate to comment then.
Okay, thank you. And then we had our Monrovia meeting on June 5th, and Dr. McClay and I attended that meeting. I just want to share with the board that at that meeting, we had a small group of us there. We had Ann Cottrell, our Napa County supervisor, and we had Mr. Anil Camello from the city. And we also had from the Chamber of Commerce, Amy, her last name is leaving me. She attended as well, Dr. McClay and I. And we really spoke on, reminding each other that the point of Monrovia is how the community can support our youth. And we were mostly zoning in on the age group between 13 and 18 when there aren't as many summer camp opportunities in the community. And so we had a discussion on that, but we also were talking about setting up realistic goals for our group, and we will work on those goals or goal, depending on what we want. We will also create an agenda so members have some time to reflect and collect their thoughts on what will happen at a meeting. So I will write that agenda. Jody and I will work on that together. That'll go out about a week before our Monrovia meetings. But our plan for next school year is to create a goal together and work on that goal throughout the year that will focus on our youth in the community and how we all can come together.
What was the age range on that?
Well, it's all
said
kids, but
13.
we're going to work on we'll look more at 13 to 18, look at different perhaps internship opportunities for kids. We know there's definitely some in the Valley. Amy at the Chamber of Commerce had an interesting idea for us
Okay.
about kids commerce, she calls it. That's happening, I think down in Napa, where kids have opportunities to write business plans and pitch. And we thought that could be something interesting that maybe we could try to bring here, but more on that. Dr. McClay, anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that was great. It's Amy Caraba, Chamber
Thank
of
you.
Commerce.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. 8C is our St. Helena Teachers Association, and I would like to call on Mark Lusdorf. Good evening.
Good evening, trustees. All right. Let's see. We'll start with negotiations. You know, it's always tough. Negotiations are always a tough situation to be in. I think we've made a lot of progress, and I believe I remain optimistic. After through this summer, that we'll find some common agreement at the very, very beginning of the school year. So that's what I'm looking forward to. We've made a lot of progress. I also want to thank Carmen. I've always heard great things from the staff at that district, so at our site, so we'll really miss you. And it's great that we have a panel of teachers on board. I think we have a good panel. I've worked with Angie, who has her finger on the pulse at that campus, to really put together a good group to help facilitate in selecting our next principal. And last, I just wish everyone a great summer, and hopefully you're able to relax and unwind a little bit, because we all need it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy summer to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to 8D, California School Employees Association, and I'd like to invite Mr. Perry.
Thank you, President Simon, School Board Trustees, Dr. McClay, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Heller, and our Chief Business Operator, Dr. Ving. I do bring you greetings on behalf of Chapter 287. It's been an incredible year. It's hard to believe we come to another end of a close of another school year. There's so many memories we made throughout this year, and I would hate to say I could give it just one. But I will leave you just a little bit about the primary school. I work at a really incredible place. If there's any place special, I don't know if there's any place any more special than St. Helena. But our principal's done a great job bringing classified staff and certificated staff together and to create a team environment to make everyone feel as if they were important. And I know for us, we like to congratulate the graduating seniors from St. Helena. They're the next leaders of our community and our country. And we each played a role in that, whether we were bus drivers, whether we were cafeteria workers, or we were custodians, or a para-ed. We all had a role in their lives, and we thank you for that. A student came up to us, several students came up to me, especially when we were doing the bridge, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Dave, are you going to go to the third grade with us?" I guess they thought I should get promoted as well, right? And I really enjoyed that. And it's hard to say goodbye to some of those kids because they've just been an incredible group of kids with us. And I said, unfortunately, I didn't graduate to second grade. They're going to keep me here. But I'll always be here if you need me to come back and see me. We did start our negotiations, and we start with some collaboration, with some good communication, and with some care. We hope we'll get there. I'm sure, without a doubt, we all get there. Because negotiations are not any different than any other type of relationships. It's all built upon the trust we had. I hope you have a great summer. look forward to seeing everyone in the fall. If we end the year out right, we'll start the year right next year. Thank you all for each what you do for our community and our students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Have a lovely summer. 9A, review and consider approval of a concept budget approval for the, oh, I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Our principals spent a lot of time on their reports, and I want to acknowledge that. So for items, which are they this time? Okay, items 9E through 9H, these are the written reports from the site principals.
It's actually 8E.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm looking at 9 facilities. Here we go. Let's start over. 8E through 8H are the written reports from the site principals, and as always, we appreciate you compiling those for us and highlighting student achievement and parent participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
9A, review and consider approval of a concept budget approval for the St. Helena Elementary School roof, drainage, and HVAC project. I call on Dr. Vang.
Thank you. I'm going to have John Delena with Greystone West present the concept scope for the work at the St. Helena Elementary School roof with a focus on the roof, drainage, and the HVAC project.
All right, thank you. Presentation. You have a presentation? There it is. All right, thank you. So tonight we're looking at getting approval on a concept schematic design budget at buildings A, B, and E at St. Helena Elementary School. Building A is the one that flooded. Buildings B and E are the same construction. Looks like the roof is the same age, so we're trying to get ahead of it so where we're not trying to repair some work after it floods. So we're coming to you with the concept budget. We don't have any plans yet. We're trying to get the architect on board still, but this is kind of what we're looking at. So tonight we'll go over kind of the general project information, identify the site and some of the scope of work, go over the cost estimate and the construction schedule, and then open it up for any questions. So the project will consist of removal and replacement of the roofing and the flashing. We'll create slope at the roofs so that we can achieve proper drainage. Right now, the roof drains are not at the low point of the roof, and so water has to build up before it can get to the roof drains. The problem with it building up is that it can get under the flashing and the roofing. And right now, the way it's built, we don't have enough distance between the top of the roof and the flashing. So we'll reframe the sawtooth walls that come down at the roof structure so that we can get adequate flashing measurement. 8 inches is what's required. We'll remove and re-roof and replace the existing failing clear story windows. We'll remove and replace the existing rooftop HVAC units, and then we'll replace the roof drains and add overflow drains. So here's just a photo of the buildings that we're talking about, A, B, and E. And this is kind of a schematic that we came up with. I'm sure the final drawing will look a little bit different as it relates to the drainage. Right now, the storm drain runs under that building A, and we've cameraed it, and we've identified that there's some low points in that line, and then there's also some separation. So we do think that we're getting water coming up from that. When the city system gets overwhelmed, it's pushing that water back, and we're seeing more water under that slab. So in the green is kind of how we're seeing how that rerouting would take place. So that's how I've priced this work. Here's some photos from building A the night of the leak. You can see water buildup. It's a little bit hard because it was dark, but you could see in the photo on the right near the clear story window, we don't have that adequate distance from the top of the roof to the bottom of the windows. And then also, if you see on the wall, that's that sawtooth wall that comes down, we don't have adequate flashing distance there as well. So water can build up and get in between the flashing and the roof, and it can come down those walls. Next slide, please. So we would like to do this project as a leaseback. And the reason for that is because there are HVAC units, and HVAC units in the last few years have increased lead times. So this will allow us to get an early order on those so that we're not waiting for the HVAC units and it, not hold up the project. It'll also allow for some early investigation. We've done some investigation. We have some open walls at Building A, but the additional investigation needs to take place. We've cameraed the lines, but there additional potholing and investigation of that storm drain system really does need to take place. There's also some planters that I think need to be looked at, potentially waterproofed. I've tried to include that in my budget as well. And then just the quality of workmanship and construction team that we get with the leaseback. We'll be able to select the best value contractor, not just the lowest price. So that'll help to ensure that we have a quality product and that the final product is acceptable. So here's the cost estimate. We expect the construction to be about $2.8 million, and we do have some contingencies on top of that, both the construction contingency, and then we're factoring in any 10% contingency for any design-related changes. I've added architect fees, blueprinting, topographic survey that would be required, any hazmat investigations, CM fees. This does have to be a DSA project, so we have a DSA inspector. We'll have testing and inspection associated with that, DSA fees. We'll do a CEQA. We'll do that for any time that we're doing exterior work. And then I've got legal expenses and a miscellaneous expenses in there. And we would use that for something like moving or relocating of some of the furniture in and out. The schedule for this is if we receive the concept approval tonight, then we would start the schematic design tomorrow. That would get us to the end of July. I would do another estimate at that point just to make sure we're on track. Potentially bring it back to you if we're not, or at least to give you an update of where we are come August when we're back in session. Then we'll get into the design development and the construction document phase. DSA registration would be beginning of October through November 28th. And then the project would actually go to DSA December 1st, and we anticipate that would be about a 75 calendar day review. Contractor RFP process, we would start that early at the end of July so that we could get a contractor on board by the end of September, get into the pre-construction services. Once the contractor has completed all of their pre-construction services and investigations, then we would get into bidding of that project. Hopefully award. I put the 10 days here because I'm not exactly sure when the 26 board dates are. So I allowed for a 2-week process there. They would start their submittals and their construction. We would potentially order materials any time between the pre-construction services phase and the submittal phase. Any questions?
Oh, sorry. Sitting here looking at you guys going, go ahead. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I wanted to, I was curious when you mentioned like this city lines pushing in to underneath. Is the city have there's no accountability on them for any of this?
No, because it's your water that's going into the city
that's
line
what I
there.
figured.
And that night when the water intrusion took place, there's water bubbling out of the city storm drain at the middle of the street. So
Right.
what we would do is if you want to go back to that drawing real quick, we're putting a manhole. The intent would be to put a manhole on our property behind the road, so that at least we could divert that water to that point, right? And so there may be some flooding that would occur there. That's something that the civil engineer needs to look at and identify. I do know that the city is doing some road work and that there's going to be a moratorium on at least getting into the road. So that's kind of the theory on that.
And there are 2 new cleanouts, or is that just like when it's pointing to that area, is that all a cleanout, or is it just because it makes it sound like there might be 2?
So we would have new cleanouts at those two locations.
Okay.
And then I would have, we've got an existing manhole. I
Right.
think you can see, I think it's building C and E on that drawing. And then another manhole or
Okay.
cleanout just before that Y section there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's just because of the change in direction as well as the 150-foot requirement for being able to scope or clean a line.
Right. And on one more, sorry, on the cost estimates, for the contingency that you have written down here, that 10%, you feeling comfortable with that?
Well, 10%.
Because if I don't ask the question, Trustee
Yeah.
Kerr will.
10%'s generally what we go with.
Okay.
And so that's the industry standard.
Yeah, that is, and then I do recall, and I know every project is different, so bear with me, but like we had the architect percentage. Do you remember the last project? It was 8%. Was that not the amount that was when it came to the track? So this architect fees, when you have one here, is that? Can you help me identify that a little bit clearer?
Correct. So on that project, it was a landscape architect, and they were limited to the landscape
Okay.
scope. So that's why it was 8%. There's an OPSC scale for both new or modernization projects.
Okay.
This is based off of a modernization project.
Got it.
And I believe it's like 12% for the first 500,000, and then 11.5 for the next 500,000.
Okay.
11 for the next million, and then 10 for the next 4 million.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Kind of in that, can you kind of differentiate, if I can get the word out right, the architect fee, the architect contingency, the architect reimbursable expenses, like what that means?
Sure. So the architect fee is just their fee based off of that construction budget of $2.8 million that you see up top. The architect contingency is if there are change orders, or if there is if the cost of the construction goes above that 2.8, then the architect gets a percentage based off of that, because they're designing additional work, correct? And so they're allowed to charge for that based off of that same OPSC schedule.
And then the third one,
The third one is just the architect reimbursable expenses. You know, that's usually for blueprinting for the inspector, or if mailing for contract documents kind of thing. We rarely ever dip into that at all, but it is something that is a potential, so we do include it. And I think even on the RLS project, we didn't dip into that contingency, and I don't anticipate we're going to be dipping into it for the primary school project.
So, well, since we're talking about the architect contingency, so in your experience with these, with lease back and then non-lease back type of, what's the other, when it's not a lease back?
Design bid bill.
Design bid.
Yeah.
Do you see any changes in the amount of change orders that come through lease back compared to the design bid? I guess my question is there less change orders?
So that's going
Or-
to, that's a good question. That's going to depend on the nature of the project. It's also going to depend on the timing that we have to evaluate the status of the drawings. If we have enough time, then we'll be doing constructability reviews. So that's where we're taking the drawings and going out to the site and making sure that things kind of line up. And then the second phase of that would be to making sure that the details and the references are correctly identified. And so, I do think in a lease-back, you're going to get less change orders than you would on a design bid build, because the contractors had a longer opportunity to look at those drawings and to look at that job, as well as the subcontractors.
Then, so that was my next question. Is there enough time allotted in to be able to do all of that work,
I think so.
to review?
I think so. And in this case, it's important that we get these drawings to DSA before the beginning of 2026, because there is a new code cycle that's coming out. And so the code cycles generally increase costs, because of the code becomes more stringent, right?
Okay.
So
Okay. And so that comes out in the beginning of 2026. So that will affect projects as we continue. We'll be using the new code.
correct. Any projects that are submitted to DSA after January 1st,
Okay. Okay. With increase, it sounds like an increased price.
it'll increase however that code
Code is-
changes.
Got it. Okay, great.
New
Thank you.
codes usually mean increased
It's increased.
building
Yeah,
costs.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
I just had one question. So the first line item is the construction budget. Is that purely purchase of raw materials or like an HVAC?
Yep. So
Don?
no. So what that is essentially it's the HVAC equipment and the HVAC. What I anticipate the HVAC installation to be, it's the roofing material and the roofing installation, the windows and the framing. It's basically that's the price I anticipate getting on bid day,
And labor?
and labor
Okay.
as well.
So if the price of a raw material such as wood goes up, anything that has a percent on these line item would go up because things cost more, correct?
Potentially, yes, unless I've tried to I've factored in to my budget a bit of escalation, right?
Okay.
Now, I can't
Right, you have no
predict what
idea.
the tariffs are gonna be and all of that, so it's my best guess. If I was to bid it today, for next year at this time, this is what I think it would be.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, my question was, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you were saying that you can begin ordering materials for this as soon as September? It'll kind of the window is September through March?
I looked at that one. Yeah, so basically in that pre-construction services, that's typically if the drawings are far enough along, which I anticipate that they will be, that we could go ahead and start submitting on the HVAC equipment and potentially release that early.
Okay.
And that would, the earlier that we can release that guarantees us, or at least increases the opportunity that we'll have that material on time, because it is such a long lead time, even though
And
those lead
that's-
times are getting better.
And that is my concern, that the pieces that need to be completed before that time, can we guarantee that they can be? Just, are there people ahead of us who are requiring, I mean, what does it look like does it look like everything can be done on time?
Yeah, it looks like everything can be done on time. I can't guarantee that you'll have all that on time because I don't know what's going to happen, right? But
Okay.
I do have HVAC projects going on right now that
Okay.
we were able to do the same kind of thing and order the material towards the fall of last year.
Great, because my biggest concern is because of tariffs, because of the unknowns, this is already a very expensive project, and so I'm very concerned about the price of this project increasing the way that past projects have.
Yeah, and-
Just given the state of our district. so.
Absolutely, and there's different things every day. I just found out there was a packing shortage, so I had to Google that when I was told that, and it came up. So, yeah, there are things that come up, and I've been able to the last several years in using this for the HVAC to get all the equipment on time.
Wonderful. Thank you.
No, go ahead. Are you sure? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to wrap my brain around again. The architect reimbursement is like $56,000.
Could you go to that
Am I
real quick?
in the right spot? Am
I think it's like
reading?
15,379. So it's a percentage, it's 5% of the 56,000, which is 5% of that architect contingency.
So if they don't spend this, that we keep that money? Or is that just given in the budget in case they use it or in case they don't?
If they don't spend that, whatever is not spent here is returned to the district.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
So when I do get a final bid, we go through and we reevaluate this to make sure that we're all within budget. So even if that cost goes up, to see if there's anything we can do to make sure that we stay in budget.
So this is probably is going to be the final question. Is it, as we were talking about the construction budget and materials and things and saying it's at the unknown with tariffs and any kind of increases, is it too much to ask, or could you come back to us when you see prices going really high so that we kind of know what to expect, instead of, because sometimes I feel like all of a sudden we see something and we're like, oh my gosh, why did it go up so much? You know, is there any way that we'd be able to be alerted of any kind of materials going up substantially?
Yeah, so we'll do an estimate at not only this concept phase, but at the end of the schematic design phase, the design development phase, and the construction document phase. And then once the contractor is on board, they'll do an in-house estimate to see where they're at. Now, there's no guarantee with that, you know, that prices don't go up or that something was missed kind of thing, but that's 4 different opportunities to be able to kind of make sure that we're on that track.
And Trustee Kerr, I can add to that, if there are any drastic changes, I'll make sure I add that to my weekly facilities update and have it at the top of my update so that you can see that.
And once we get some drawings from the architect, we'll be able, when we reprice it, and there might be some things that are different than what we saw, we can come back to the board with an update on that.
And I'm sorry, one more. I'm regarding the early investigation. So obviously, there's been some investigation done by either our own team or by your team.
Correct.
To know what we might encounter once things are pulled off or dug up. So my question is, because this is a roof project, what happens with the walls in this and the floor? Because the reason I'm asking is I'm looking at this, water sitting, I'm thinking what's behind those walls? And will that be explored in early investigation versus we've gone in here and we've discovered that there's mold behind these walls now from?
Yeah, is a building A, right? Everything's kind of gutted out anyways there.
Yeah.
So, but at buildings, at the other 2 buildings, I think they were B and E.
Yeah.
At the other 2 buildings, we'll be able to do some of that investigation, but it's a little bit like at the primary school where with the siding, like you can see some dry rot on the outside, but we don't know what's under that. And we can
Okay.
drill some holes and kind of look, but at that one location, it might not show anything.
Right.
Or it might, but that doesn't mean that it's how everything is.
So if that's not part of a roof though, is that a whole new other project or does that go into the contingency? Because I'm just structurally thinking, this is a roof project and all of a sudden we've got a problem with walls and buildings B and now we're looking at another project, correct?
Yeah, well, yes, but that's something that the architect will
Okay.
evaluate while they're
Okay.
going through to create these drawings.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So sounds like possibly more to come. Okay,
Well-
cross our fingers. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to.
No, we have
Oh,
to.
God, jeez. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the proposal for architectural and engineering services for the St. Helena Elementary School roof, drainage, and HVAC project as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed say no. Okay, motion carried.
Got to get those kids back in this.
Gotta get this, absolutely.
We'll move on to item 9B, approval of proposal for architectural and engineering services for the St. Helena Elementary School roof, drainage, and HVAC project. Dr. Vang.
All right, so this is a continuation from facilities 9A. When you saw on slide 8, the project cost, it did include the cost for architect services as well. So I'll hand over to John.
Yeah, and in that bid pack, or in the board package, there is a breakdown of that fee that we were just talking about. Right there. And so, yeah, it was 12% of the first 500,000, and it kind of shows you that sliding scale that OPSC has identified. So we're just looking for approval for the architect to get going on the schematic design and the rest of the project.
Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No.
No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the?
Wait.
No, just so this
Oh, sorry.
is part of A. This isn't an additional cost.
Correct.
Okay, I want to clarify, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the proposal for architectural and engineering services for the St. Helena Elementary School roof, drainage, and HVAC project as presented?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Item 9C, review and approval, Resolution 24-42, authorizing the demolition of personal property of the district pursuant to Education Code Section 17546 and awarding the demolition contract. Dr. Vang.
Thank you. So in my weekly facilities update, I've been sharing the information regarding the two portables over at the high school. And today, this agenda item, we're bringing forth a proposal to dispose of the two portables over at the high school. The two portables there, based on the tags that we were able to locate, the portables are around 30 years old. And for various reasons, we believe that it is time to, consider disposing these two portables. So I'll hand over back to John and to Mike to give you some more information and also answer questions that you may have.
So as far as these portables go, these are the ones out by the football field. Two of them, they're leaking. There's some damage to the floor and the siding and the understructure. I know that there's some critters that are living under there. The understructure appears to have some issues with dry rot type items, and then so there's also a concern for bacterial growth in that. So we went out and per CUPCA requirements between $75,000 to $220,000. We did a 10-day advertisement, went through the bid process. We received two bids, one at $78,000 for FRC Inc., and then one for Cars Construction Services at $97,500. So we're recommending award to FRC Inc. at $78,000. This work would take place over summer.
Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I just want to make sure I understand. So that includes taking it out and dumping it or taking wherever it, destroying it. There's not an additional dump fee or anything like that. That's to never see it again.
Correct. They're going to mobilize, they're going to crush them, they're going to haul them out, and that's the project.
And $78,000 for the total, for both,
Correct.
not each, okay.
Correct.
How about, do we have to do any kind of a grading or anything after removal? I mean, what does it look like? What does the ground look like after they are removed?
They're on wood foundations, and where the buildings are, they're not gonna have any vegetation there immediately. There will be a little bit of cleanup, grading. It won't be anything extensive though. It'll just be enough to make it sure that it's flat and that there's not a bunch of ruts there.
And
But
that-
is that included, or is that like done in-house, or?
That's part of it, correct?
It's part of it.
Okay, perfect, great, thank you.
And I think a question I had earlier in the week too is, with any of these removal of buildings, what about any kind of soils testing? Or, I mean, this doesn't have power or water through it or pipes per se. But
There's some power there.
Okay.
That'll be shut off. I believe there's some pull boxes where
Okay.
the power comes from, and they'll close that
Okay.
off.
But the soil doesn't need to be tested for anything or?
Correct.
Okay, great.
We're not removing any soil.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
No?
Sorry, I thought somebody looked up. That's why.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 24-42 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay. Item 9D, review and approve Resolution 24-43, authorizing the private sale of personal property of the district pursuant to Education Code Section 17546. Dr. Vang.
Thank you. At the primary school, not elementary, at the primary school, sorry, there is a mistake in my background summary there. It is the St. Helena Primary School. There are 3 portables that are at the site. They're currently used as storage this year. Last school year was the last year that we actually used those classrooms, those portables as classrooms. And those, based on the tags that we were able to find, the 3 portables are around 27 years old. The tags stated that they were built in 1997. So for various reasons, we are also asking the board to approve the district selling these 3 portables. We do have 2 buyers. And one of them, I believe, is a local church group. I'll let Mike talk to that a little bit.
One interested party is St. Apollinaris private school, and then Global is a modular company, and they take them, refit them, and then resell them. 2 potentials.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
So I have a question, and it just humor me on this, if you will. So we can, if these are, I'm trying to help me wrap my head around why it costs so much money to demo 2 old buildings and haul it away. Is it because it's school property? Are we dealing with that kind of factor at play here? Because how because we are next to hospitals, we're the next safest structures. I'm just like, when you see what they're worth and somebody's charging us $78,000 to get rid of 2 of them, I'm just trying to understand it and not have such sticker shock about all these prices that are coming our way. So just a couple of sentences, if you've got them.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of the second time that we've kind of gone out to get some pricing on this.
Yeah.
And the initial time we had them packaged together, and it was even more.
I know.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's dump fees are expensive.
Yeah.
It's certified payroll. It's really all that.
Okay.
There's some.
And
there's
it's the
some-
equipment. I would imagine that these are the large pieces of equipment that are coming in to demo.
You're
these.
mobilizing some excavators.
Yeah.
And, it costs money to get them there and all that. So, yeah, it's.
I appreciate it.
I know it's a lot of money to remove those things, and you would think that you could get rid of them for $25,000 kind of thing, but those days are gone.
No, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Okay. And so the people that are taking these units, how are they dismantling? I mean, is it any? I'm just trying to understand, like. I mean, are they just coming in and excavating the entire site out?
Yeah, so one is the ones by the football field.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to get in there and all that. Also, they're not in the kind of condition in which they could be. They take them apart. They come together, and there's like a mod line, and they have to take all that apart, and then they would haul them off at the primary school. They're still while they're dilapidated, they're still in better condition to where they can be repurposed.
Okay.
Especially if it's off-site
Okay.
and they're not doing it under certified payroll kind of thing.
I appreciate you bearing with my questions and being patient with me. Thank you.
So is that 2,500 for one, or are they both 2,500 on the resolution? Is that for all of them at primary? It talks about the sum of $2,500, or am I?
It's individually worth less than 2,500.
So we're not even going to get 2,500 for all 3 of them? Okay.
They'll give you $1 each. I mean, $1 per modular.
And removing them is all their expense and all that type of thing.
Exactly, yeah. And like when they're moving them, they got to get CHP and they got to get the permits and all that. So there is a good cost for them to go ahead and relocate them.
And another question, and tell me if this is not on the same thing, but so once they're removed, we were standing there the other day. Is there a plan for some type of beautification? Because that's kind of a really focal point when you drive by the campus where they were. Do we have plans to put shrubs, trees, something to beautify St. Helena Primary without them there?
Not at the moment. We wanted to bring this step forward first, and then if this is approved, then we will get together with our team and discuss next steps.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'd probably reach out to our arborist, and we can game plan something that that will be beautiful.
Thank you.
And then, Mr. Flores, will you oversee this like, will you be on site when these are being removed, or John? I'm just curious, who represents the district when this project is happening? More for the matter, if somebody damages something else to one of our buildings, obviously, is that in the contract? If they damage it, they fix it at their cost. If something else were to get damaged on our property.
Yeah, I think the way the contract would be written, and it would go through legal counsel, would
Okay.
be, yeah, if they damaged a fence,
Yeah.
upon exiting, or maybe the corner of another building or something, that they would need to pay for that.
Because the last thing St. Helena Unified needs at the moment is any more facilities work. So, I mean, I say that somewhat flippantly, but it is true. I don't want to have one thing cause any more projects or dollars for.
Yeah, and I'll be active in that
Great.
when it's happening.
Okay.
For the district, but also I like to see stuff demoed.
Fair enough. Thank you so much.
And I'm happy to hear that there's going to be some type of landscaping or something, but that's going to come at a cost though too. So we're, and that usually comes in $50,000 or something, irrigation and everything. So that's a concern of mine. It's not part of this agenda item, but that's a concern right now.
Let's keep that in mind. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. John and Mike, thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you so much.
Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 24-43 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Oh, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay, how are we doing with comfort break? Now would be a good time. It's been over an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a 7-minute break, and then we will continue. Thank you. Time for intermission.
Time for intermission. That was funny. I need to get some water.
Test. Test. This is case. Test.
I'm fine. I hope it doesn't come across like we're being like petty. No, it's just that.
Test.
I mean, I just feel like somebody's coming out with a bulldozer and knocking that down. Like, really? I know. Well, especially that one. That one, I understand. Yeah. But the one that was just down the street, and I'm like, well, that's what. I know. Well, and it's in San Helena. I have not tried it. So that was the whole thing. Was maybe somebody should be telling like John those business. I'm sure he knows.
up.
Or is it
All
like this?
right.
Everybody quiet?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, quiet coyote.
All right. Okay. All righty. We are back from our break, and we're going to start in with board-related items. Our first item is 10A, review of the governing board annual self-assessment, and I will get us started on that. So this self-assessment provides us the opportunity to step back and reflect on how well we are meeting our responsibilities as a governance team. At this time, we will review the results and confirm the strengths and areas for growth. We should also discuss areas where perceptions are mixed and focus in on areas of improvement that will be most beneficial to the board and district. We should also consider goals for improving performance and work on them during a future board development workshop, which we discussed scheduling one in September to continue the good work we did with Mr. Rutherford. So let's take a look at this, and we can just make sure that I don't need any comment. Oh, yes, we do. Okay. So before we get started, is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay. So we can get into it, see what our impressions are. And we were also given the board evaluation from last year, so we could take a look at growth. We could take a look at some where our perceptions had changed. So I'm happy to jump in unless anyone wants to begin.
I think you could start us
Okay,
off, President
sounds
Simon.
great. Okay, we start with a positive. So I was pleased to see some growth in board culture from the year ahead. Especially with the board treats the superintendent with respect. That was almost always, which is 5. So we have started off on the right foot with Dr. McClay and appreciate the work that she's doing at the superintendent level. Thank you very much. I also noticed growth in the board effectively orients new members. This is in board development, and the board reviews its governance agreements regularly. So nice growth there as well. And growth and accountability in 3 of the 6 sections. So boards monitoring student progress, where I still think, we can definitely always continue to see growth in that area. The board monitoring progress towards district goals based on established success indicators, and the board monitors the implementation of board policies. There was also some growth. I took a look at, if we could turn to number 21, under board operations, all board members receive the same information. I noticed that we had 2 almost always, 2 often, and then 1 not sure. And I was wondering if anyone remembered their thoughts on this and wanted to just let us know who the not sure was or why they put that and what we could do to change that perception.
Well, I think I can comment on that because I'm not sure if I was a not sure or number or the second often. I think because I don't think we all received the same information, and I don't mean that as a negative. As the president of the board, and I know last year with Lisa and now with you, there are conversations that are between you and our superintendent. And rather than all of us knowing all the little details, I know you share when you feel things, we all need to know them. But sometimes I think there are preliminary conversations that you have that we're not always aware of. And again, I don't list that as that's wrong. I think that's the nature of having a president having more duties, more comprehension than the rest on the board. So one of those that was not the green one was me, because I understand that's the nature of how it is. I don't know everything discussed always especially when things are like pop up and you aren't able to, contact all of us, and you and the board decide if this is something that we should all be aware of, or something that's not. So that was one of them.
And I think just to tap onto that is when a board president might be earlier in the know about something, and the board president, along with the superintendent, may not be able to inform the rest of the board until it's agendized either in closed or open session as well. So that's why there could be a little delay in some of the information. But that's the only, to your point, I would also confirm that nothing is not transparent. Something just may be known earlier to the person who sits in the role of president.
Okay, thank you. Also, same clarification, I see a not sure for number 30. There's a good relationship between how long the board spends on an agenda item and the importance of the item. We have 2 almost always, 2 often, and then 1 not sure. So I just wanted to see if anyone remembered their thoughts on
It's
this
me.
one. Okay.
I was the one not sure, but it's not that I'm not sure. It's not that I agree. I'm actually really pretty consistent with this one. I don't believe that our job as board members, in my opinion, is that we tackle whatever comes our way, regardless of what it is, and whatever amount of time it takes is the amount of time it takes. So I just don't think that it really, to me, it really matters. I just don't really think that there should be a relationship between how long the board spends on an agenda item and the importance of an item. However, I do want to say, though, that I also understand that we have to be mindful of things that we are tackling, to make sure that we're because our job is for our students. So we don't want to get out of the realm of what is needed for our students. I hope that helps.
Okay, so when we see that one in the future,
It's me.
when we see not sure, now we know it.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And to stay in the board question 30 was in board meetings. Looking up at 28, the board effectively uses data in decision-making. I noticed last year we had the same score. Almost always is a 0, often is a 4, and less often is a 1. So I'm looking at this one and thinking this might be one that we want to take to a September board workshop and design a goal around it, or have more conversation about being able to ask for data, accept data, and use it to make well-informed decisions.
Yeah, agreed.
What that will
And working
entail.
with
and-
Dr. McCle- Yeah, I
and
think
working with
that's,
Dr. McCle.
I think we're on that path even. Just determining what's the best data for us to use as well. Getting the guidance from the district staff, but I agree.
Okay, so I will make note of that for our work in the future. Anything else?
No, I mean, I always notice that we always have that one about advocating at the federal, state, and local level. And talk about spending times talking about, I remember we've had board meetings over the years where we've spent a lot of time talking about that in particular, because sometimes it feels unless we're at Sacramento, we're not advocating on a state level, which is completely contrary to, it's taken me a while even in this role to realize you don't need to be on the legislative floor in Sacramento to be advocating. It's whether when we go to our conferences, when we go to SF Squared, which happens to be in Sacramento, but there are other things that we do when we write emails to our legislators. So things do happen. And same thing on the federal level, but really, I think unless you attend that coast-to-coast conference, you're not going to find yourself in Washington, D.C. necessarily advocating for public education. So it's just kind of a tricky thing.
Yeah, it is.
I think number 55, the board provides community leadership on educational issues. I think we have the potential. I think sometimes we need to be better about informing the community of what's happening, because I think we'll have the programs, but time gets away or whatever, and there sometimes parents don't know about things, and no blame on anyone. I just think life is busy, and maybe that's something we make a greater effort to find every avenue we can to put it out there, because I'm just thinking of the wonderful program Ben did about college readiness and A through G, and there was like 10 people in the audience, and it was such a great thing. And as I said, no fault to anyone. It was a great program. Let's find a way that we can get enough people involved and get them in, because we do have a lot of good things to share.
Okay, so also I'll consider, not I will, but let's consider that one for workshop time too. We'll workshop that one.
Okay.
I was gonna, the 37, 38, and 39
Yeah.
also kind of fits into what we were discussing for our goals, and then having quantifiable metrics or ways to make decisions about those goals. I just wanted to add that those should fit into that category of how we're guiding.
Okay.
Plenty
Okay. Yep, I've got 5 for a workshop. Anything else anyone would like to add? No? Okay. All righty. Okay. We will move on to 10B, request to accept gifts, donations, or earmarked funds. Is there anyone participating who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions? Actually, before that, I would ask Trustee Mora if she could read the donations for us. Quite a few to share tonight.
There are a lot. The first set, is it up on the screen? I'm not going to read the donated to, so everything I'm about to read is donated to the 2025 scholarships, so the graduating seniors for this school year. So $43,500, Napa Valley Community Foundation, description of 2025 Wood Family Memorial Scholarships. $1,500, Napa Valley Community Foundation, 2025 Kirsten Vange Memorial Scholarship. $500, Napa Valley Community Foundation, 2025 St. Helena High School Class of 1952 Scholarships. $1,000, Napa Valley Community Foundation, 2025 St. Helena High School Class of 1968 Scholarships. $1,100, Napa Valley Community Foundation, 2025 Congressman Mike and Janet Thompson Public Service Scholarships. $2,000, Napa Valley Community Foundation, 2025 Bruce Frank Scholarships. $1,000 from St. Helena Viticulture Club for the 2025 scholarships. $5,000 donated by Denise Smith for the 2025 Denise and Dave Smith scholarships. $5,000 from Napa County Landmarks 2025 scholarships. $1,500 Keith Strange 2025 Al Ponce Scholarship in memory of Terry Strange. $3,000 donated by Federated Women of Upper Napa Valley for the 2025 scholarships. $7,500 from the St. Helena Kiwanis Foundation for the 2025 scholarships. $10,000 from Glenn Cook for the 2025 Glenn and Gail Cook Health Sciences Scholarship. $2,000 from Napa County AAUW for 2025 scholarships. $1,000 from Joyce Ann Anderson for the 2025 Richard Anderson Scholarship. $4,000 Napa Valley Festival Association for the 2025 scholarships. $1,000 Christine and Daniel Hale, 2025 Hale Family Scholarships. Now moving on to non-2025 scholarship categories. $1,000 from Seroptimus International of St. Helena for the FFA General, the donation from Crab Feed volunteers. $500 for the St. Helena Lodge 167 Odd Fellows for the high school art program, miscellaneous donation. $500 St. Helena Lodge 167 Odd Fellows for the St. Helena High Band program for miscellaneous donation. $500 St. Helena Lodge 167 Odd Fellows, St. Helena High School Choral Program, miscellaneous donation. $10,000 Zumwalt Family 1995 Revocable Trust, Sherilyn Zumwalt, St. Helena High School Choral Program, miscellaneous donation. $500 St. Helena Lodge 167 Odd Fellows for the St. Helena High School Drama Program, miscellaneous donation. It's just, again, I mean, that was amazingly long list, and so grateful to everyone in our community that is helping out, not just with scholarships, but with all the programs that we offer in our school. It's just astounding.
Thank you, Trustee Mora. Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the gifts, donations, or earmarked funds as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 10C is our review of the superintendent subcommittees. So the governing board is asked to review the current assignments and discuss any potential changes for the 2025-26 school year. So we can take a look at them and see if we want to make some changes, stay where we are.
If I could just say a couple things real quickly. First,
Yes.
thank you for your immense service on all of these committees. I know that it takes a lot of time and that you all invest graciously of that time to support the work happening in these committees. The first chart, which I believe, if you scroll back up, thank you, Ms. Vanderkool, those are the current committees and your current assignments. If you scroll down, though, before you begin your discussion, I just want to point out, we made a couple of errors here, and I apologize that I did not catch these. The superintendent subcommittees, it's our recommendation that the 4 remain the same: board policies, business operations, and LCAP steering committee. The 4th one, though, the current student equity and belonging committee, we would simply like to change the name. And that has to do with all of the work that they've done, particularly in the last few months, really looking at student experiences in general. So for example, I know that Vice President Pelosi and Trustee Kerr serve on that committee, and that committee is geared up, effective the first week of school, to do focus groups on the student experience, to do equity walks, looking at how equitable our environments are for our students and our staff, and to conduct empathy interviews, again, talking with students about their sense of belonging. But in addition, if we title it Student Experiences, we believe that the committee can then go so far as to even start working with students on how do they feel about access to things like courses of rigor, athletics, extracurriculars, visual and performing arts. So really expanding their work. So what you see now, the error here is under ad hoc, we would not have student equity and belonging there. So that line should simply be deleted. It would fold into the student experiences subcommittee, if you so agree. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we currently have Vice President Pelosi and President Simon for our board policies, so I'm assuming that will stay the same.
I'm fine with that unless somebody is, I mean, it was obviously you would stay
Yeah.
on as board president, but if somebody has a desire, otherwise I'm happy to stay on that and for the term that I serve as vice president, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Sound good? Okay. Let's take a look here. We have the ad hoc field trip. Now wait a minute. I don't see that one. No, that one we're not continuing.
We don't have one that down there for field trips because, as you know, ad hoc are when we need them, and you needed the field trip committee this year, but we don't believe, right.
Okay. Business operations, Trustee Mora and Trustee Wolf currently attend that one. Sound good? Want to stay?
Yes,
Okay.
if Kay will let me.
Okay. And then we have our, I will continue with the Monrovia group. I believe that is the president with Dr. McClay. And then county representative currently is Trustee Kerr. But you just began that recently.
No, I've been on that for a while, but I still am on the
was
Treasury
the-
Oversight Committee. It's like at the county level. So I'm happy to stay on this committee.
Okay.
There's not that much that goes on with it, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Kerr. LCAP Steering Committee, we currently have Trustee Mora and Trustee Wolf.
Yes.
You wanna
I
stay on that?
can keep learning and learning.
Okay.
So I'm good.
Okay.
Nice day.
And then we have our student experience, which is Trustee Kerr and Vice President Pelosi.
Yeah, and I would advocate that we stay on that only because we are ready to roll into action.
Exactly.
And we have, working this past year, I think it would take a little bit for a new trustee to kind of get up to speed.
Got it.
And we are really, so if.
We're in a good place. We're in a
We
really
are in
good
good, and
place.
we would be ready, we would be honored to stay on that committee.
Yes.
I'm going to speak for you.
Thank you.
But,
And are you okay with the name change, again, so that we can expand the work once we finish these next three?
It's not changing the action items or the mission of it, so, I have no problem with that.
Fine with me. Absolutely.
Okay, and then you mentioned our ad hoc committees. With school calendars that needed until 2027. We only need one board member for school calendar, student discipline, and that's it.
I'm happy to take one of those.
I can also.
You want to
Okay.
be on the, so let me, just a thought here with the school discipline, and it may just, I just want to put it out there as something to think about. Would it be a challenge particularly for the two of you to be on a committee like that?
That's why I'm not
Yeah,
offering
because you currently have,
myself, yeah.
yes, okay. So I'm happy to take student discipline if one of you want to then, or somebody else wants to take calendar. Okay, calendar is fabulous. You'll love it.
The calendar won't
Yeah,
meet
I
again
know.
for what, 2 more years?
2027.
No, I know.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just upselling.
okay.
But I'm happy to do the discipline
Thank
as
you.
needed.
I appreciate that. Okay, so Vice President Pelosi will do student discipline and Trustee Mora will do school calendar in 2027. Okay, and we will move on.
I just had.
Absolutely.
I had talked about adding a subcommittee for student achievement a couple of times. So I know it's not there, but I guess if there's content that should be discussed in a more in-depth situation than at a board meeting, where would that fall in a subcommittee? Maybe that's another way to put it. If there's something that should, like a map versus star or something like that, or how do we figure out summer school programming, Galileo versus going back to traditional? Where would something like that fit in a subcommittee?
So a conversation like MAP versus STAR went to the assessment task force, which is more like a district committee, and board members are always welcome to attend any district committee. What was your second example? I apologize.
I would just.
Oh, summer school, Galileo. That would be another committee that Araceli works with, probably starting with your principals. Araceli, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I'm just throwing out examples. They probably are bad. I just.
Well, and that goes back to a little bit, and maybe I didn't explain it as well as I should have. The student experiences group. I really believe if we look at things holistically from the student's experience, we can fit in. Do they feel as though they belong, right? We're looking at Chuck's data. We're looking at Kelvin data. Do they believe they have access to the academic program as well as the extracurricular program? So I feel like that's going to look at a lot of data this year. Are we preparing them? What is their experience? I mean, we have to use data to look at those things. So I envision it fitting there, but we struggled a little bit with that name even. So maybe the name is not encompassing enough.
And so then I guess maybe it would be useful for me to know the types of things that are going to happen there outside of what I've heard about, which is more of the empathy interviews, because I didn't realize those types of things might be happening there now, which would just be good for us to know. And then you mentioned other committees that are happening in the district also, because I was not aware that those types of things exist. Maybe just having a list at some point, knowing what things are out there.
Absolutely. I mean, we have the
would be
math
useful.
committee, we have the assessment
that
task
one,
force committee. We can go ahead and start adding
I'm just
those
curious what the list
into the
is, yeah.
calendar.
I don't need to
So, or
attend.
no, just the list? Got it. Okay.
List what they own.
What they do. Okay.
Thank you.
We can do that.
No, but I'm glad you brought that up. You make a good point. I mean, one of our most important roles is student achievement. So having a subcommittee or having pieces of certain subcommittees that address that is vital to.
Yeah, but
Our
you don't
job.
want to take away from the student works, I mean, when we do study sessions on data, So that's where you have to kind of find the right balance, because if subcommittees are starting to look at data, I don't know, that, to me, it just needs to
I
be
see what
flushed
you're
out a
saying
little bit. This whole, I know what you're after.
But then it's a student achievement study sessions. Maybe we get in a habit of doing them twice a year.
Correct. I think
Okay.
that's maybe more what
Perfect.
you're after.
That is what I'm after, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so then we need to consider setting dates.
Yeah, and we
those.
usually, I think you usually do between Dr. McClay and
Yeah.
work with Erica to kind
To
of find a
set those
couple
up.
of ones in the school year to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds great. Okay, we're set to move on? Everyone's ready? I think
so.
Okay. 10D, okay, 10D, discuss and confirm the assignments for the Adopt a School program. So we will take a look at our current assignments and see if anyone would like to discuss or make a change for next year's assignments. We have Trustee Pelosi at St. Helena High, RLS Middle School, Trustee Kerr, St. Helena Elementary, Trustee Mora, and the primary school, Trustee Wolf.
If I can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I'm gonna advocate that I stay at the high school, and here's why, is because I just got back into the ring, so to speak, after serving as president for 3 years, and I've only visited the high school once so far after coming off of the presidency, and I'd really like a little bit longer to just jump into another school site and move. But I'm totally up for negotiations. If somebody else really wants to have that as well, I just would like to advocate for myself to stay put if possible.
And I would just like to tell you that Nikki in the primary office said she was circulating a petition that I get to stay at the primary school.
I think that makes sense since you were just one there. It's nice to have at least 2 years at a site.
I just, just to get a little more time and get back into the groove of all that. If nobody is opposed to that, so.
Okay,
Because I know we normally do switch, but
yeah.
that would be my request if possible.
Sounds like we'll stay for some consistency.
Yeah, because I was going to request, I would love to stay at RLS.
Okay.
Okay, so no
And
changes.
then you have an opportunity to work with the
for
new
next
principal.
year.
Thank you.
Thank you. 10E, information and approval of board policy updates from March 2025. Dr. McClay.
I apologize, I have to get that one up. So the Board Policy, am I on? Board Policy Committee convened on June 3rd to review all of these updates, and it looks like, Ms. Madrigal, thank you, they are posted up there. Do you have questions on particular ones, or would you like us to do a quick run-through? Most of them are Gamut or CSBA recommended until this final page that she has on the screen right now. Those were staff recommended.
Okay. Is that it, Dr. McClay? Okay. Is there anyone participating who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I had a question about the, sorry, okay. Do I ask a question here about the AI policy update or later when it's presented? I don't know where it fits.
Usually I would say to ask it when the policy comes up, but because
now.
you're being asked to approve the policy now, we should probably take the
My-
question.
What I'm asking, I don't think would change what is in the wording of a board policy, so I'm fine with waiting, but I don't know how this works.
That's fine. If you don't think it would change, then I would ask it when we get to the policy.
I was just going to ask for examples of how a student is told what is allowed and what's not. Because it just, on this board policy, it's shifted from a shall to may, or is it may?
You're fine asking at
I can
either
answer
point.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
so that's under policy 6163.4. And the committee thought that shall would be perhaps too restrictive for a teacher who's not comfortable with certain assignments using AI. That is, if you wanted some free writing or creative writing where a student just had a sample and had to start writing on their own. If it says shall, then it's bound that the student could access AI. So kind of given the fact that we're moving forward with the policy, both with staff and students, we wanted to start somewhere, and we felt shall was too restrictive, and we felt in talking to Principal Cinto and Principal Ryan that teachers could include the use of AI in their syllabi at the beginning of the year to clarify for students how much or how frequently AI would be used, so there would be clarity in the syllabi, and also prior to an assignment. So if there were a project or a writing sample, the teacher would be explicit on how AI would be used. And I think that we had, in the report that I had, we had 8 students from the high school, and it was probably the best participation we've had from students on any committee, and they were very active, and the overlying sentiment was, just tell us when we can and can't use AI, and we'll follow it. We just need to know the guidelines. So we felt, going forward with this as a start, and then as things come up during the year under Derek's subcommittee for technology next year, they can revisit this and see if there's any further changes that would be needed.
And so I guess I can comment here, but as a parent, I was spanning RLS, high school, and then I have kids in college, it would be useful as a parent to know maybe by school. It doesn't have to be at back to school night because you can't cover that, but what is the guideline? Like, hey, your teachers will cover with your children what is and is not allowed? Because I find myself saying, are you allowed to use ChatGPT for that? And, oh yeah, Mom. So I don't know. So just something to help a parent understand that a child has been told would be useful, because we wouldn't think to go look for a board policy on that either, just for support at home to know what those boundaries are.
Okay, that's something we can
I mean, it's not
talk
it's
with
just kind of 'cause it's
administration
going
about.
to- I ask it all the time at home. Are you allowed to use that?
Yeah, we don't, we're going to probably, and Derek might need to come from the back, but we are going to restrict ChatGPT. We've enabled Google Gemini at the high school for use because it's a closed, I've learned a lot about AI. It's a closed data system where all of our data stays inside, but we get the benefits of everything that Google has learned. So,
But if we have a home computer and they're working on it, they shouldn't be, but I just don't know what the boundaries are as a parent, and it would be nice that we could offer something to parents to know.
Yeah, and that was a big thing that we heard from the students as well, that they wanted clear boundaries to know, as Chris said, what can we use, what can't we use?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to provide that. We thought a good first step would be telling teachers, hey, if you don't have anything in your syllabi about AI, put something in there for next year. Because we are adopting Gemini, so it's in-house, so it will be usable. But if you're a teacher that says, hey, I don't want you using that in my class, be sure you put it in there. So it's very specific. And so part of that will be a good guideline, but I kind of echo Chris that maybe speaking specifically to site admin to find something easier for parents so they have a better understanding too.
yeah, that's good feedback.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question on the AR 1230 school-connected organizations? Are we referring to in that like clubs at school, or is this things like the athletic boosters, the FFA booster club, more that type of thing? Okay, thank you.
But I would like to give a shout out to Dr. Vang, who's been worked really hard on streamlining and aligning all of these organizations so that everybody's in compliance. Because, it's important that anybody fundraises for our district, that they are adhering to a checklist, if you will. And Dr. Vang has worked really hard to streamline all those and get those up to speed. So thank you.
Principal Cinto, I have a question for you. Of course, about the mobile device, mobile communications device policy 5131. And you have recommended option 1?
Yeah.
Students may use smartphones or other mobile communication devices on campus during non-instructional time as long as the device is utilized in accordance with the law and any applicable school rules. So My question, just for clarification, non-instructional time is time spent outside the classroom, not after a teacher has given direct instruction and kids are working independently at their seat.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. That was my only question. That was an easy one, wasn't it? Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Let's move on. Is there a motion to approve the board policy revisions as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Moving into student learning and achievement with 11A, information on the California dashboard local indicators. And I call on Mrs. Roma Flores.
Good evening. So the local performance indicators were presented last meeting. And so that it is required that the board have an opportunity to revisit those, and as they approve the LCAP. It's a requirement that they go together.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No, I do.
No? I had a question for you. On slide 5, why is ELD health and the NGSS in initial phase of providing, let me see where.
The professional learning.
Yeah.
So as you can see, we have a lot of content areas to cover. And one of the challenges at St. Helena Unified School District is that we have very limited professional development time. And so we really have to prioritize where we're going to put our efforts. And so this last year, we really focused on math. That was the content area that got the most attention. And so that's why the sites ranked those.
I am logged in.
Like those are areas that we probably should dedicate more time to. They need more training in. But because we do have limited time, we have to prioritize what areas we want to tackle.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, trustees, was there a question or?
When I looked at this, wasn't logged in, so I didn't know there was a PowerPoint link.
Okay.
I only saw the Word doc.
Okay.
So
Are you able to open it right now?
I am now.
Great.
But just so you know, it's.
It's interesting because on mine, I'm logged in and everything, and I don't have that. So that's very bizarre. But it's okay. I'll
For the time being, I have use mine.
Okay.
And I can use this
Oh,
one.
yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
Absolutely. So, okay, let me just open mine really quickly.
But I have seen.
Wait a minute here. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to move on from that one. So on slide 11, let's get to slide 11. The majority of students feel there are high expectations at school, and then it says areas to address. Students do not feel there is a meaningful participation at school and do not feel that they have caring relationships at school. So with this one, I just was curious, is this across campuses equally, or is this pertaining to a specific age group?
Yes, it's for so what we, so what I did is I looked at which categories were under the 80th percentile, which is our goal, it's our target, and an area that every school didn't meet, and so that was why that one was selected.
Okay. And so when using this one as an example, how do you decide this will be addressed or next school year?
Yeah, so we actually just received some encouraging data. Our new checks report came back, and so we have seen some nice gains.
Great.
But we will still continue to work on these goals. And I think that, as I mentioned at the last meeting, I'm really excited about the empathy interviews, just because I think that that's going to give us some information about what we can do to help students feel more connected and cared for and that they're, why they feel that it's not meaningful participation. It's really important to get that information from the students, right? So we can address, because we may have an idea that may not even hit the mark. It may not even be what they're really feeling. So I think it's going to be really important to really look at that data that we collect. And I'm really excited that we're going to be using Kelvin next year, because that will give us more opportunities also to kind of do more progress monitoring, like how are we doing in those areas, so that we can really tailor our activities. The sites may have some things that they're doing and that they've already included in their SIPSA that they want to speak to, but it's just something that I think it's going to be important to really understand it from the students' experience.
Well, it sounds like we're trending in the right direction, and with the Calvin, we'll have better information.
Yes.
So that's great
Timely
news.
information too.
Great.
I thought we were already using Kelvin. Maybe it was a 2-year trial
We
and
used to
only
use-
certain grades.
We used to use Kelvin, and RLS, to their credit, continued to use it independently because they liked getting that data, and they've been using that data as progress monitoring. And he has shared the benefits of Kelvin with the admin team and shared how he's using that data, which the rest of the admin team is excited about and wants to continue with Kelvin for that purpose. And so it's going to be a district initiative next year.
And does it cover all grades? Because I feel
It
like
can carry-
maybe before it was only certain.
So that's the limitations of checks.
Oh, that's
but-
checks.
uh-huh,
Okay.
But Kelvin, you can assess whoever you'd like to
Okay, great.
survey.
And sorry, what grade starting?
You can do whatever grades you would like to. So there's a bank so that we can survey as young as kindergarten, as long as they could read it, right? So
Okay.
so there isn't a limitation in terms of who can be given the survey or how many times you can give it. And it has a bank where you can actually really tailor it to what you're trying to understand from your student group.
Okay.
And so you can actually create the survey based on whatever you're trying to gather. They have a bank of questions, and you can select which ones you want to pose to your students.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. 11B, thank you very much. 11B, consideration of approval for the 2025-26 Local Control Accountability Plan. Mr. Heller.
Yes, so the updated version of the LCAP is presented for final approval. Following our public hearing in May, this gave the opportunity for additional community input. The plan has been reviewed by the Napa County Office of Education staff and the Napa County SELPA, and they've made some small edits and modifications for its final approval. So we're asking tonight that you approve our LCAP for the 25-26 school year, and then the final version will be forwarded to the Napa Board of Education for approval in July of 2025.
Okay, sorry. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No.
Mr. Heller, I have a question on page 1. So it's showing federal funds at the current 531K. Will that stay? Will that stand? Or with the possible decrease in federal funds of 500,000? What is this?
Dr. Vang says she can answer that.
Thank you, Dr. Vang.
So I will address that a little bit more when I get to my presentation.
Okay.
But basically, based on what we're hearing so far from the May revision, there will definitely be cuts. What those cuts are, we will find out.
Okay. I will save my question for then. Thank you. I had one more comment looking at, I just wanted to say I was pleased with the increase in the A through G student requirements from 51.4% to 57%. And I was just curious what the goal was for next year, or what conversations around a goal for next year for that.
Well, we might need to pull Mr. Cinto up.
Mr. Cento. Or is there a goal here and I'm just missing it? I'm sorry.
There's no goal. We haven't thought about, I mean, obviously there's so many factors that go into making students A to G eligible. I mean, I think we talked about, or I talked about last time I was up here about our internal A to G audit. And, you know, this past year we had 2 courses in both Miss Swickard's Plant and Soil Science and Ornamental Horticulture pathway approved as A to G. Lab sciences, she's going to be working on the other 2 courses next year. Mr. Mendez's CAD class got approved as a to G visual performing art. So all of those factors, and mind you, students cannot get a D below a C. So there's so many factors at play in terms of what students are coming in terms of level of preparation as well, and how that pans out over their 4 years in high school. So I would say the goal is always more, but, you know, we take students as they come, and they come with different levels of experience and background, which changes their outcomes. But that's something we're always working to have more students A to G eligible.
Yeah. Thank you. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 Local Control Accountability Plan as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 11C, consideration of approval for St. Helena Unified 2025-26 instructional continuity plans. Mrs. Roma Flores, please.
Yes, so we are required to create continuity plans in the event of an emergency, and so all of the sites have worked collaboratively to have a coherent plan. And so you'll notice that they're very similar because we did work on these together to make sure there's coherence. And this is the required plan that needs to be attached to the safety plan, the comprehensive safety plan, to address any emergencies that will require school closures.
Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No. No, I'm good.
I have 2 quick questions. The first one was, we have up to 10 days in a catastrophic situation to begin instruction. Do we have to make up those 10 days at the end of the year? Do you know?
That's a good question. I'm not sure
Okay.
about that. I'd
Okay,
have to
I'm
do
just
some
curious. Maybe we could.
It depends. Typically, if the governor or the county superintendent were to declare a state of emergency, then you don't.
Okay.
But it really depends on the emergency and what it's classified as. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
I think we had something when we had the wildfires,
Yeah, that's
correct?
what I was
And-
thinking, too.
And there was a waiver given to us for X amount of days that we did not have to make up.
And that's most likely because the governor would have declared it an emergency.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then this just reminds me of when we had to provide Wi-Fi support and kind of scramble for families during COVID. But what is the current plan for Wi-Fi support for families in a catastrophic event when we move to online learning again, if that be the case?
Yeah, so maybe Derek can speak to that, but I know all of our students do have the one-to-one device, so it would just be about making sure that they have Wi-Fi access.
And when I mean scrambling, it's just because we were in a situation we had never been in before. So obviously we weren't prepared for things we'd never experienced before.
Yeah. So again, we'd have to move pretty quickly on something like we did before. In the case of wireless, we'd have to identify students who didn't have network access at home and get them those hotspots as soon as possible. We don't keep a supply on hand because we don't want to continue to pay cellular rates. The supply we do have are LTE-enabled Chromebooks that we do give to students who do not have internet access at home, which they can check out from their library media specialist at their site. We have about 10 at each site as it stands right now, but in the case of an emergency, we would have to move quickly on ordering and getting cell phone plans established so they could take them home and use them.
Do we have a list of families that would require that support on record? Just so that would just cut down the time in case of an event where they could receive instruction sooner rather than later. Perhaps that's something.
I just think that would be hard. For example, I was without power at home for 6 weeks after glass fire, so I don't think you can know. It's kind of, if there's no power, you don't have Wi-Fi also.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the ones that currently don't.
But they have a laptop maybe with Wi-Fi.
We have the library media specialist work with the site administrator, the folks who know more about our families and their specific situations to be able to check out those devices. I don't
Okay.
make that determination.
Okay. Okay, just,
Options. And like Mr. Machado mentioned, I mean, there's hotspot options that we can purchase. There are devices that we could purchase quickly. There were many districts during COVID that literally outfitted their school buses with hotspots and went and parked them in neighborhoods to give, you know, the whole street or neighborhood. So there's different options depending on the need. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into whether or not we can ask folks that, how we would house that information, and then whether or not it would be accurate in the time of the emergency,
Yeah.
I guess is questionable, but we can look into it.
okay.
And just, sometimes we see SHOP called out as a separate school. Do I assume that SHOP falls into the elementary school ICP plan here?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 instructional continuity plans as presented?
Micah, I'll make that motion now.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. 11D, consideration of approval for the 2025-26 school plans for student achievement. Call on Mrs. Roma Flores.
Yes, so all of the sites have, I want to commend our principals because you may recall that they have already submitted a plan. So this is 2 plans in 1 year. So they really did work hard. And the reason that we did that is because we wanted to make sure we had a school plan ready to be implemented in August. And so in the past, we were adopting them too late, and so it kind of didn't make sense. And so now this plan is now going to be in effect once you approve them, and they will be able to implement immediately.
Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Okay. No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 school plans for student achievement as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Thank you. 11E, written report on 2025 St. Helena High School by Literacy and Golden Merit Seals. I'd like to remind the board that this is a written report. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Okay, thank you for the report. 11F, written report on the Artificial Intelligence Subcommittee. I'd like to remind the board this is a written report. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? No?
I don't have any questions, but I appreciate your time with that committee,
yeah.
forming the committee and things on this one. It's good. It was.
I learned a lot from it too. It
Yeah,
was great.
that's-
And I
learned
did
a lot
mention
from
the,
your college, yeah.
having 8 students on the committee was really helpful and insightful of their experiences in the classroom and what they were looking for from a policy. So that was really beneficial, I think.
It's great. That's great.
I had a bunch of notes, and I really want to condense my thinking around this. As a parent, and a board member, I just continue to have concerns about AI. It's such a broad topic, and it's ever evolving, and what that means for our children and our schools, and accountability, and learning and growth for our kids. So I was wondering in the fall if we could, either in a Friday memo or in another report, get to take a look at what the schools are doing to get the information out about what's acceptable student use and what's unacceptable, just so we're all on the same page. And I have faith that it's being done in the best way possible, but I would always like to just stay in tune with what's going on at the district and how the information is being shared with students and families about appropriate use. If that makes sense. Like, for example, perhaps if you could share, like, in the English class, for example, there's a lot of writing that happens in that class. What are some of the guardrails in our high school English classes that are set up to establish some AI boundaries for kids, you know?
Yeah, I think we, in the earlier part where we were discussing the board policies, the teachers are going to include that in their syllabi.
Great.
So.
That's right, you did mention that.
Yeah, and so each teacher will have different expectations for different writing prompts. Sometimes you'll be able to use it. There was actually a great exercise we did on the committee on what felt like cheating and what felt like, was authentic thought, or the AI helped you with prompts. And it was really difficult, and I think it's a great exercise that, everybody should participate in, just because it's really hard to discern where the line is as far as AI doing too much for student thinking and student work. So
Exactly.
I think it's one of the things that we'll continue to wrestle with, and I think the challenge really is AI is here and students are using it.
Yeah.
Those of us that have college students know that they rely on it, and that's a scary word, but they do. And so our role in TK-12 education is to help prepare students for their future. And so it's how do you use AI responsibly? And I think by having that in the syllabi and having teachers having different expectations for projects, that will help students kind of understand where and when and what the limits are for each different assignment.
Well, I appreciate how our school district is trying to be as proactive to this ever-changing AI world that we're living in, rather than being reactive. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It will be in the teacher syllabi, and that conversations will continue with our students how to use it responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this isn't something where we're putting in a board policy and then just leaving it behind. It's something that the technology committee next year will continue to collect feedback on and see how it's going and if there's any need for future refinement to the policies.
Great.
So
and just to
I'm
keep
sure
the
by
board in the loop on that.
Yeah, by May or June, we can have a full report of how it's going for the entire school year, and principals can probably our secondary principals can reflect on the policy, kind of like the change that we did in the cell phone policy.
Right.
Right, we did that in the fall, and then now it's kind of become less of a topic, and so maybe we can see what AI brings in that area. We have a start, and then we can reevaluate it at another time.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Heller.
Because you
You're
can
welcome.
see if you're not clear, you could end up with discipline problems because of using AI improperly because you're cheating or
Right.
And that's where I was talking previously about how do parents know how to have the conversation also. So
Yeah.
it's tricky.
It is tricky.
Would we ever reference the board policy in, say, a student handbook? I'm dating myself because I have not seen a student handbook in a little while. But if there are other policies noted in a student handbook for other issues, whether it's like drug and alcohol use or absenteeism, I'm just wondering if that's something that could be, I mean, I know I don't expect everybody to be looking up our board policies, but at least it would be there, and it would be, somebody would say, oh, there's a board policy on AI.
I think it's covered in our academic honesty
Okay, perfect.
policy that the high school has.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Nope. Okay. We will move on to Human Resources. We have one item tonight, 12A, review and consider approval of a revised classified management salary schedule for 2025-26. And Mr. Heller, I'm sorry, Dr. Vang.
Thank you. We're bringing forth the classified management salary schedule, and we're looking at the Director of Food Service position and increasing the days from 198 days to 208 days. The 208-day mirrors the elementary and primary principal school work days, the 208 days. Also, we believe that it's important for us to increase the work days to ensure that our food service director has adequate time to prepare for summer school and provide support for summer school. As you all know, we have ELOP dollars that are supposed to be ongoing, and as long as they're ongoing, we're going to have to run our summer school program, so we'll need additional support there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I have a quick question. So this, the classified management salary, it's been changed to include the 208 days. And so the salary has been changed as well to include those extra days.
Correct.
Is that what okay, perfect.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay.
I actually have a question based on what you just shared about summer school with ELOP. Should ELOP ever go away and we don't have summer school, I'm not sure that would ever happen, but does that mean we would have to come back and change this again because we don't need a food services director during the summer?
Well, it would depend if we continue to run summer school or not, right? I mean, if ELOP dollars go away, then that's a conversation that we'll need to have. But if we decide to keep summer school, there'll still be a need.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I believe that I don't ever remember not having summer school. Yeah, yeah, and we didn't have the ELOP dollars at that point, so, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the revised classified management salary schedule for 2025-26 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Business operations, 13A, contracts over $25,000 for May 2025. Dr. Vang.
All right, for contracts over 25,000, we do have 6 contracts that we're bringing forth today. Most of these are renewal contracts that we currently have in place that we are renewing for next school year. For the Renaissance contract, this is a 3-year contract to be invoiced and paid annually. And it does include a bundle, it's a bundle package, whereas this year we've been paying for some of these services separately for next school year. These will be a bundle package that we will purchase together.
Okay. Hold on. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I had one question about, it's Adroit, am I pronouncing that correctly? And I apologize if it's embedded in all the pages, Dr. Vang, but I was just curious how many students this covers.
So we usually bring forth a purchase order in the amount of 100,000 because this is for our special ed students who may need transportation. These are students who attend non-public schools, and I believe this year for summer school, we only had 1. I believe that for next year, we're only anticipating 1. But what we're doing is we're bringing forth a purchase order for 100,000 because if we do get additional special ed students, then we don't have to keep bringing back this contract to the board. So this just gives us wiggle room in case we do get additional special ed students who do need to be placed at a non-public school. We won't have to bring this contract back to the board. So this is an annual contract with a similar amount.
Okay. Thank you.
I might, maybe this is the wrong subject, but I thought that I'm recalling that we were going to share some of these transportation services with Calistoga.
We have a separate contract with Calistoga to provide transportation as well.
Okay, okay,
But this contract is specifically for students who are attending non-public schools.
right. And those are usually in Santa Rosa? Are they?
Yes.
Yes, okay, okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the contracts over $25,000 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 13B, accept the GASB 75 actuarial evaluation for the district's retiree health insurance program as of July 1, 2024. I'd like to call on Dr. Vang.
All right, so this is our actuarial report as of July 1st, 2024. This will start the new cycle of the valuation report this year, followed by 2 supplemental reports, and then in 2026, we will get a new valuation report. This is to ensure that the district is in compliance with GASB 75, which is our OPEB report. And on page in the report, if you have had a chance to read through it, our net OPEB liability based on this report is at $4.6 million, because we are, as you know, putting in funds into our SERP trust account, and currently, as of the last report that we received, that we have about $352,139 in that SERP report. So that brings our net OPEB liability down to a little over $4.6 million. Thank you.
Anyone participating who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I had one question, Dr. Vang. I think on the one-page attachment, the third one, when you look at it, there's 3 columns in it. No, not that one, Erica.
The comparison between the last.
Yeah, should the middle column be 2023?
No, it isn't, because it's as of the last of the latest valuation date. So if you look on the second, look on the second row, on the second column, that'll tell you the actual measurement date. And these are the measurement dates that you're looking at the valuation. So for the July, so the first one's the July 1st, 2022, and then the June 30th, that was the one that we brought forth to the board this last time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But that one is based on the same valuation date of July 1st, 2022?
Yes, because the valuation day is the actual report, then we have the supplementals in between.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So for this, for this evening, we're just accepting this report, then? We're just.
Correct.
Okay.
Because this report will be the report that I will be submitting to our auditors for our year-end audit, and that will be the report that our auditors will use when I close my books for 24-25. This is the data that will go into this year's report.
Okay, okay. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
For our long-term commitments.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So Mike, I asked that question because it was, I believe it was at our facilities meeting. We talked about it briefly, kind of how we want to move forward with funding this. So will that be coming back to us then with a recommendation? Because I don't know if this is the time to say what, but we need to continue to fund this.
Yes, we are going to continue to fund this, and keep in mind, we have funds in Fund 20 that are currently sitting in Fund 20, which is our OPEB fund. We also have our SERP trust, which we're contributing $50,000 to the trust every year.
Right.
And so we have those 2 pots of money, contributions. Fund 20 is We're no longer putting money into there, but if you recall, my recommendation was when I close the books, what I can do is, depending on our fund balance, I can, let the board know whether or not, I recommend making additional contribution to the SERP Trust. Keep in mind, there is no penalty if we want to, make more contributions, so we can add more, we can do less. There's no penalty, so it's up to us whether or not we want to continue the 50,000 or contribute more. That's up to us.
Okay. And so from when I was doing a little bit of research on this, it seems to me as though having a kind of paying
Pay as you go.
no, like putting in funds like what we're doing right now.
The SERP Trust.
Yes, is a benefit to us because then that amount goes onto the asset side of the house, and it offsets the liabilities, and it helps kind of at our credit rating in the long run. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then we need to continue doing that. It sounds like yes.
We are, and we are committed to the 50,000 a year. Whether or not we make, we increase that contribution will depend on when I close my books and our fund balance. Then I'll make a recommendation to the board.
And would I be correct in my thinking that one reason to increase that contribution would be if the price of benefits starts to go up, and right, things like, because then the liability amount would increase.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And also because we earn interest on that account, on those funds as well. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the GASB actuarial evaluation and supplemental schedule for the district's retiree health insurance program as of July 1st, 2024 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 13C, Proposition 28, Arts and Music in Schools Annual Report. Dr. Vang.
So what I have here is not only the 24-25 Prop 28 annual report, which is required by CDE, and once the board approves this report, it will need to be posted on the district's website. In addition to the 24-25 annual report, I've also included the proposed Prop 28 expenditure plan for next school year, and the principals are ready to share more information if it's needed by the board.
Is anyone participating who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I
Yeah,
do,
go
sorry, on the future, but I don't think I need the principals. I know someone asked this, but which of the items are related to the fashion show? I think for so the primary school, they participated last year. Is there anything on the primary school that's for the fashion show?
No, the fashion show was actually funded by, I believe in Principal Ryan. Fashion show was funded by the PG over at the middle school and with site funds, not with Prop $28. We did not use Prop $28 for the fashion show.
Okay, you don't have, unless it's. Thank you, welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Correct. The Kendra wrote it, Ms. Calparis wrote a grant request to PG. Whew, I got to fast there for being down for a long time. And then site funds were used to help compensate for her after school work. So no Prop 28 funds were used at RLS for that.
Okay. But elementary or primary? Because I know they were included this year in the fashion show, so I didn't know where that funding came from. Or I guess it doesn't matter in the past.
It wasn't Prop $28.
I guess that doesn't matter going forward. Should we be?
Not with Prop $28, because Prop $28 have very specific guidelines as to what we can use those dollars for. And so that is actually not part of Prop 28, our Prop 28 expenditure plan. For the primary and for the elementary school, both principals have a plan in place where they are utilizing the visual performing arts teacher to provide after-school instruction to their kiddos. So, and Ms. Kilparis is included in the plan, but she's actually providing art and not, fashion show was not part of it.
Okay, so sewing or home ec is not considered a visual art.
It's not part of our Prop 28 plan.
Okay. But it couldn't be legally either. I just didn't know that.
It could be if it were consistent, because like our plan here, it's consistent. There's a plan for it after school for primary and elementary.
Technically, though, the arts, or the 4 disciplines that come under visual and performing arts would be drama, visual art, dance, and music, and then 2 components within music, instrumental and vocal.
Okay, thank you.
And the majority of the funding is required to go to salaries as well, is that correct?
80% has to go to salaries.
Yes, okay,
correct.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay, no other questions? Okay. We'll move on to 13D, review and consideration of approval, Resolution 24-34 regarding a declaration of intent to provide preschool scholarship funding. Dr. Vang.
Right, so this resolution is a resolution for our Preschool for All. Back in one of our business operations committee, we actually had this discussion with the committee, and the committee's recommendation is to continue our contribution, the amount of $30,000 towards the cost of the scholarships for next school year as well. So this resolution is to continue that same contribution amount.
Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
Yeah, I'm going to recuse myself on this just because I'm the treasurer of preschool.
Of course. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 24-34 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 13E, review and consideration of approval, Resolution 24-40 regarding the Board Resolution Committee funds. Dr. Vang.
Right, so I apologize, but there is a mistake on my background summary. It should say during the May 19th, 2025 special board meeting, not regular board meeting. But at the May 19th facilities study session, we had staff from King Consulting, Casa Studio, which is now Motive Studio, and Greatstone, and we had looked at our facilities plan, looked at our projects, and one of the recommendations from the facilities team was to set aside $5 million to address facilities needs. 4.5 of that would go towards the major construction projects, and then the other 500,000 would be added to the current 300,000, which we're contributing to Fund 14. That's on the next agenda item. So for this particular agenda item, the team is recommending a set aside of $4.5 million to fund our major construction projects moving forward. This resolution would commit those funds for these larger construction projects. And so when I'm working on my budget, you'll notice that there's the fund balance, instead of this amount being assigned, it will be committed, and there's a difference because once it is committed, that means that the board has approved a resolution to commit these dollars, and in order for us to take them out, it will have to come back to the board for the board to approve us to uncommit these funds. So there's a difference there, and I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
You know, I don't, and the reason why is because we discussed it at the meeting, so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 24-40 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 13F, review and consideration of approval Resolution 24-41 regarding the transfers from General Fund, Fund 1.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, part of that $5 million set aside, $500,000 would be added to the current $300,000 that I'm currently transferring to Fund 14 to address deferred maintenance needs. So these would be the smaller projects, not the larger construction projects. So this would be a total of $800,000 that I would be moving every year, starting next school year, from general fund into Fund 14, which is our deferred maintenance fund.
Okay, sorry. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I just have a logistical one. So when would you, so it sounds like next year, so will you do these transfers then the beginning of the year? Or when would you, or will we do it mostly like the end of the year or in April like we did?
It would depend on the projects, right?
Okay.
So if I have lots of projects, then I would be strategic and I would do it in December and in April when our two big pots of property taxes come in. If not, then what I do is I wait till the end when I'm closing the books, and then I'll make that transfer at the end. So it
Okay.
just depends on our projects and the need for the year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 24-41 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 13G, review and consider approval of the 2025-26 original budget. Dr. Vang.
All right, so last month I had brought forth the budget for the public hearing, and for this month, as part of our budget cycle on the second slide, I'm bringing this budget back with the revisions that I discussed so that the board can review this and hopefully adopt it. I have some updates that I do want to share with the board. I've attended several May revisions and continue to receive ongoing updates from Capital Advisors. And these are the exact words from Capital Advisors. It is a gloomy economic outlook. The most recent budget report that came out includes President Trump's 2026 education budget. And President Simon, to answer your question, yes, the president does have his budget, his education budget does include significant reductions to many federal K-12 education programs. What does this mean? That, you know, our state of California, likely will not have the resources to backfill such a substantial loss of federal funding. So, as you all have heard, I have shared that we do receive over $500,000 in federal funds. So, with all the uncertainty, it does make me nervous as your CBO. Depending on how things play out, we may or may not have these federal funds next year moving forward, so we have to plan accordingly, because if we don't continue to receive these funds, as you know, there's nowhere else for it to come from except for your general fund. So again, we can do some things, we just can't do all things. We really have to prioritize, so I can't stress that enough. On this slide, on the next slide, you've seen these key assumptions before, and go back to the next, to the first slide, please. Oh, okay. I do want to point out just the changes that were made in the key assumptions. Mandate block grants did go down slightly. So for example, for 25-26, you'll notice that for K-8, the per ADA amount went down from $39.14 to $39.09, and the $75.41 to $75.31 for grades 9 through 12. The COLA, as I had mentioned at the public hearing, has also slightly decreased from a 2.43% to 2.3%. And that is also true for the out years. You'll notice that there is a slight decrease in the cost of living. This COLA is applied to specific category or programs, including special education and child nutrition. So again, this COLA means less funding for these programs. On this slide, some changes. PERS retirement for our classified folks, it is down slightly. So for the out years, instead of 27.50%, it's down to 26.90%, and then 27.80% for the third year. Consumer price index, slightly up compared to last month when I presented at the public hearing. I do want to point out the workers' comp. NBSIA finally approved our workers' comp, so it did come in at 1.6%, which is slightly higher than what we had thought it would be at the public hearing last month. So overall, for the multi-year projection, these are the revenues, expenditures, net increase and decrease. And you'll notice that there is a net decrease not only in the budget year next year, 25-26, but also in the two subsequent years. And the reason for that is because in 25-26, the $300,000 contribution from general fund to fund 14, which is deferred maintenance, has now increased to $800,000. So there's that increase that we need to account for, which does have an impact on our net, decrease in our fund balance. Our unrestricted ending fund balance slightly decreases, through in the subsequent years from the 12 million to 11 to 10. And then our reserve for economic uncertainty, the minimum requirement is 3%, and we're meeting the minimum 3%. Our projected reserve, which includes not only Fund 01 but Fund 07, is about slightly over 22% for next year, and then in the subsequent years it drops. It's decreasing in the subsequent years. So, as you all know, we're a basic aid district, otherwise known as a community-funded district, and we've heard this over and over from School Services of California, SF Squared, the importance of having a higher reserve than state-funded districts as a basic aid district. And the reason for that, and that is why, as a board, you've made the decision to have two goals, the 10% set aside and then the 33% of our property taxes. And the reason for that is because, for one, as you all know, right now our economy is so volatile based on our governor's May revision. His exact words were, it's a volatile economic climate evolving from federal policies, delayed tax collections from residents of LA County, potential reductions in federal programs, which we talked about. So all these just create even a higher level of uncertainty. So it's going to be critical that I monitor our budget closely not just the budget, but, our cash, which we'll talk about later. But as a community-funded district, we also have to look at our step and column expense, health and welfare benefits. As you know, we are on a calendar year, so come January 2026, there's going to be an increase to our medical costs, health and welfare, so we have to account for that. Increased costs of special ed and other programs, and if the President's education budget passes, that will also impact special education, which means more contribution from general fund into special ed. We also have an unfunded universal TK program. If you haven't heard, last week, the bill did not pass, and so as a basic aid district, unlike our neighbors in unfunded and state-funded districts, we do not get any additional funding for our TK program, so that's actually coming out of our general fund. We still need to meet the state-required 3-year multi-year projection to ensure that we have a positive qualification, positive certification, and not a qualifier negative. Otherwise, FCMAT will have to step in, and that's just not good altogether. Also, there could be delayed payments of categorical funds, which may create a cash flow challenge for us because that's just the way things work. And having a high reserve as a basic aid district also protects us should these deferrals hit. So I believe, Trustee Pelosi, you had asked previously, well, how much, is 3% worth? Where does that get us? I want to just reiterate, 3% is about 2 weeks' worth of salaries, and the 17% is about 2 months. Our fund balance, having a healthy fund balance, isn't critical for us because it protects not only programs but employees. So lots of information there. We also have our usual routine maintenance and special education programs, which are also unfunded. So we're making contributions from our general fund. And again, depending on how things play out, we may or may not be increasing our contribution to our SPED program. Our cash flow, that doesn't look good. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't look like that on your presentation.
It does.
Okay. But it's positive, so. Same beginning cash balance for both public and adoption hearing, but our projected ending cash balance is slightly lower because of the fact that, again, I'm making those transfers from general fund into other funds. So that does impact our cash. And again, I've said this many times, you've heard me, cash is king, and without cash, we cannot make our payroll run or pay our vendors and keep the lights on. So cash is important. So based on my budget for next year, it is my recommendation for the board to approve the 2025-26 original budget. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Dr. Vang, I have a quick question about our current enrollment in TK. Are we at 50?
I think right now we're at 39.
39. Okay. Historically, is this the largest class we've had so far?
I believe so.
And the bill did not pass, so these will be kids that okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, but thank you for keeping us updated. And yeah, I don't know. It does feel a bit gloomy, I will say, but
yeah,
we just wait and see what happens.
I do have a question. So that, thank you for this adding the slide 6. Sorry, I guess a couple before this one. outlining the basic aid students, they should have 33%, or I guess on this slide.
Right.
Sorry, basic aid, it says community funded, yeah. We should have 30 is what's highlighted for, but it says 33 up in the wording, so I don't know. Either way, if you then go back a slide, what you're saying is those two rows on the bottom that are reserved, there's a blue one and a black one. Those should be at 30% if we are being responsible stewards to pay salaries and bills.
Correct. That's the recommendations, to be at 30. And then, Erica, can you go back to the slide that has the community fund reserve? So the 33% is what is recommended. And then on the chart on the side where you see the highlighted 30.16%, that was actually the average for unified school districts, basic aid unified school districts.
That's the average, but the
Yes.
target is 33?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, because I was confused on that, okay. But not this slide, I just want to make sure I'm looking at this one. So the blue and the black on the bottom, those two, all of those percents, if we are on target, would say 33%.
Correct.
And the average of basic aid districts are at 30%, and we are at 22 and 23 for, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 original budget as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion carried. Moving on to future agenda items, 14A. We will take our regular break in July. And in August, we will have several written reports and a board policy update. Take a look at the governance calendar. Is there anything else that you would like to add to?
Not so much adding. I would like to just circle back to our public comments, both the written and the lady that spoke tonight on behalf of ELAC and DLAC. I'm wondering, on the two written public comments we received, could you update the board in a Friday memo on both of those situations?
Yes, and if it's okay, they'll come next Friday.
No, totally, that's fine. And then I'm wondering, because it was so nice to have those parents speak, do we want to consider having space on an agenda for a year-end update from DLAC and ELAC? I mean, it was very nice to have that. I don't know if they would be interested in something, but,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah, parent groups as well. But I mean, it would be nice if a year-end wrap-up would be.
That's a great idea.
To hear from them, if we could maybe put them on the agenda versus public comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that.
I say even like the Give Big, what they raised and maybe, what they funded or something, that whole committee.
And maybe some people want to do a written report as well, but we sure like our visitors when they come in, so.
We do. A great idea.
So that was one of my only comments.
Any other ideas for future agenda items?
There was a conversation about, like, when teachers, how they can access funding from Give Big or from the foundation. It might be kind of interesting just for us to really understand how that works when teachers want to reach out, like what the cycle is and how those things work, because I think it's different, I know, from when I was in parent group many years ago, and just might be a good information of whether it's at a meeting or just a written report or something.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, everyone. We will adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'm all with bated breath over here.
Ready, Trustee Kerr?
Say.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Meeting ended at 8:55 PM. Everyone have a wonderful summer.
Awesome. Thank you.